Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be walking through the third project in my 30-day data analytics series, where we work on projects on a weekly basis. So far, we've managed to explore healthcare and finance data sets. For the first project, we walk through the COVID dataset, and for the second project, we walk through the loan approval dataset. So for this one, we're going to be focusing on e-commerce. So for the dataset we're going to be using is going to be the online retail dataset, and you can find it in the UCI machine learning repository. I've always wanted to explore the e-commerce, sector of data because it's an area I'm pretty passionate about, and it's also a booming field in data currently. If you would apply to any data job right now, most likely e-commerce is going to be one of the leading industry, right? So, this project is going to be an exciting one. We're going to be using SQL and Power BI. So SQL is going to be focused on, just doing like some data cleaning and, just exploring the data set. And we're going to be using Power BI to do some visualizations. So before I get started first, you can go ahead and scroll through this, but what I'm going to do right now is I want to try to generate a brief that we can work with. And what I'm going to be using, the tool I'm going to be using for this is ChatGPT. ChatGPT or any LLMs that you're using, they can be pretty helpful in your data analytics journey, just to suggest certain insights you can generate from a particular data set. And it can also help you generate like a brief for you to work with, like a real world brief. So that's what we've been doing for the previous project, but I didn't quite walk you through my process to generating this brief. And I thought this could be helpful to just show in this video. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to paste it into ChatGPT, right? So I'm just going to tell her like, can you just give me a summary of what's going on here? All right, so it's just going to give us like a summary of everything that's going on, instead of going through the page. So as you can see over here, it's just showing us that this is like a transactional data set from a UK-based online retail store that mainly sells gifts and decorative items. So the cool thing about this data set is that it's based on a real world company, right? So that's why I thought it would be the best for to be a part of this challenge, right? Because I really want this to be real world focused, right? Not just cargo is always great just to get some data sets to practice with. But if you're someone looking to build projects that you want to showcase like to like a future employer, it helps to, play around with real world data sets. So here's the description and the columns in the data set, not that much, right? And the highlights of all the records in the data set, the time frame covered. So this is from December 2010 to 2011. So it's pretty outdated, but we can work with it. What matters is that it's real world, right? Uh, Missing values. Customer ID is missing in some rows, okay? Geography, mostly United Kingdom, but includes data from 37 countries. Okay, so there's something over here. Transactions with invoice number starting with C are returns and cancellations. All right, so here's like common use cases here. So, projects we can build with this, right? So, okay, so maybe we can just find one to go with anything that speaks to you, right? So what I'm going to try to do, I'm just going to pick one from this. Let's go through the RFM analysis, right? The customer segmentation one. I believe this would be great for us to go with. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to ask ChatGPT to help us generate like a brief for us to work with, right, before we get started with the project. Okay. All right, so I just asked ChatGPT to generate a detailed brief for a fictional company. So I'm just telling it what the project that I'm going with. I also asked it to include what RFM analysis is, because I'm not really sure, just to get more understanding on what it is. And I also include my tool of choice, what the tool I'm going to be using to perform my analysis. So let's just send this. All right, so as you can see, it's helping us generate a detailed brief. This is amazing, right? For someone looking to start building project, this just makes it more engaging, and it motivates you to actually want to work on it, right? And it's as detailed as possible. So let's go through it. So it's just showing us like a company overview. You managed to give us like a fictional company name, right? So yeah, just some overview stuff and the amount of records it has. Okay, the leadership wants to implement a data-driven segmentation strategy to tailor marketing campaigns, improve customer retention, and boost overall sales. Okay, so that's the goal of the company. So the objective. The goal of this project is to perform RFM analysis. So this is what it means, right? Recency, frequency, monitoring on gift cards transactional data to identify distinct customer segments. All right, so I'm going to try to like explain what this means a little bit more as we get into the project, right? So here are like some business questions we want to answer. Who are our most loyal, high-spending customers? Which customers are at risk of churning, and how can we group customers based on their purchase behavior? Also, what marketing strategies should we apply to each segment? So as you can see over here, not only is this a great e-commerce project, this is also great if you want to work in like a marketing analyst role, right? Because most marketing teams mostly focus on trying to find uh, better ways to personalize the marketing campaigns, right? And yeah, what is RFM analysis? So RFM analysis is a customer segmentation technique based on three key metrics: recency, how recently a customer made a purchase; frequency, how often a customer makes a purchase; and how much money the customer has spent. So this is what you're tracking. It's kind of like a KPI you're tracking, and this just helps you like inform your customer segmentation technique, right? So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT to just I can copy and paste this into a Google Doc, or I can ask ChatGPT to help us, turn it into a document, right? So yeah. All right. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to create a database to store a data set in. So I'm just gonna click on new database, and let me just name it online retail. All right, so let me just click on OK. So now we have a database created. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to import our data set into the database. And for this reason, normally the data set is in Excel format. So I had to convert it to CSV because I had some issues with importing. It's just way easier to import in CSV format. So if you'd like to get that same dataset for yourself, you can click the link in the description and download it in the Google Drive. So I'm just going to try to import this. So I'm just going to go to tasks and then import flat file. So I'm just going to pick the location where the file is located, and that will be, I think this is my downloads, right? So there it is. Let me click on next. All right, so here's like a preview of our data sets. So nothing too crazy. So I'm just going to untick this. Click on next. It's like you can review the columns, make some changes, but for now I'm just gonna leave it as this. So next. and finish. Okay, it seems we have an error over here, which means we might have to use another tool to import our data into SSMS. And the tool we're going to use here is SSIS, SQL Server Integrated Services. It's like an extension in Visual Studio Code, and normally it's used for ETL processes, extract, transform, load. So mostly used to extract data sets and import the data set from one place to another, right? So that's the tool we're going to be using. Uh, it's not that complex, so I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that. Okay, so I'm in Visual Studio Code, the 2022 version. If you don't have this downloaded, I'll include a link in the description for you to download this. So what we're going to do, as you can see, here are some solutions I've created. I mostly use this for importing data sets from one place to another. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to create a new project. And the project we're going to create is a integration services project. So once you have like Visual Studio Code installed, you might have to install this extension also, because that's what I did. So I'm just going to click on this and I'm going to click on next. And now it's asking me to rename this. So let's just name this online retail. All right, so let me just click on create. Okay, so here's what the interface looks like. We have the solution explorer over here where you save all your packages and solutions. And here's the tab we're going to focus on mostly. So what we want to do now is we want to create a data flow task. And what this is just like a workflow that, if that makes any sense, it's just like a workflow. That's what it is. So let me just click on this. I'm just double tapping on this. So here's our data flow task over here. So what I want to do now is I want to get into our data flow task. So I'm just going to double tap on this. So inside our data flow task, so what we want to do now is we want to include a source and a destination. The source is where the data is coming from and the destination is where it's going, obviously. So the source we want to include is going to be a flat file source because it's a CSV file. So I'm just going to double tap on this. Okay, so let me just move this over here a little. So now you can see there's an error over here is because we haven't connected our flat file source yet. So let me just double click on this. And now we're going to create a new connection. Okay, so you can name it whatever you want. I could just name this, I don't know. Alright, so I named it RFM Analysis. So here's where we're going to like include a file. So I'm gonna click on browse. And yes, we're looking for a CSV file. So let me just go back to my downloads. And there we go. Alright, so here's the file we want to import. So what we want to do now before clicking on OK is we have to review all these other tabs. So let me click on columns. So here you can see the preview of what the columns look like. Alright, so I guess we're all good over here. Advanced. And over here, here's where you can change certain things. You can change the data type. You can also include like how many values you want it to include. So what we want to do now is I'm just going to click on suggest types to suggest like the data type to use for all these columns instead of manually changing the data types. So I'm just going to click on this and then just click on OK. All right, so let's just review this. Okay, string description, string quantity. Let's check the date. All right, you can see it's in date. Unit price, I think unit price should be in integer. So let's just try to change this. Or I might use a float. Let's just use a float. All right. Customer ID, integer. Okay. Country, string. Invoice number is also in string. All right. So I'm just going to leave it as is for now. So let me just click on OK. And now I guess this is good. Let's click on columns. All right. So error output. So what I want to do now is I want to clear all these error outputs. So I'm just going to highlight every one of these, and then I'll click on ignore failure, and I'll click on apply. And now I can click on OK. So as you can see here now that we have no errors anymore. So now what we want to include now is our destination. So our destination is going to be OLEDB. So that's like a database. So let me just drag this here, and I'm going to connect these two together. So here, let's just make some changes in here to get rid of the error, right? So here's our connection. So let's create a new connection, right? You can see I have some connections created already, but we can always create a new one. So let's click on new. I'm gonna click on OK. So our server name. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna change this from the native OLEDB to OLEDB driver for SQL Server. So now what we want to do, we have to paste in our server name over here. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. So here's our server name over here. All right, so I'm just gonna copy this, and I'm gonna paste this in here. All right, so here we can select our list of tables in our database. So the table we want to select now is online retail. So I'm gonna click on OK. All right, let me click on OK over here also. And now it's asking us to select a table, but since we don't have a table created yet in SQL Server, I'm going to create a new table over here. And here it's helping us to generate the SQL code, which is great. So we can review it, make some changes, but I think we're pretty much good over here. So let's click on OK. All right. So here's the name of our table. I think we can make some changes. Let's change the name of our table to online retail. All right. So let me click on OK. And now I think we're pretty much good here. Let's check the mappings just to see if it's connecting the right way. Yeah, I think we're good here. Error output. All right, let's just click on OK. I think we're pretty much good. All right, so what we want to do now is we want to run this. So we're just going to click on start. And we're going to wait for all the rows to import. As you can see here, it's importing all our rows. All right, so all our data has been imported. It took forever because we have over 500,000 rows. But yeah, we got our data imported. So what I want to do now, I want to review to see if it's actually in SQL Server. So what I'm going to do now is, let me just close this up real quick. I'm going to refresh this. So let me review to see if it's in there. So we're opening our online retail database and our tables. And yeah, as you can see, we have our database over here. But it seems we have two. Perhaps that's why it took so long. So I'm just gonna delete this one. I don't really need it because I think it's the same thing. So let's just review this real quick to see if if there's data in it. So I'm gonna select the top 1000 rows. Okay, so we got our data there. So it's time to move on to the next step. All right, so we can start performing our analysis. But before I start, I want to create a view. This view is just going to be doing some data cleaning. So to do that, I'm just going to click on new query. So I'm just going to paste the code of our view. So what this is just doing is we're just selecting the columns we need, and this we're just converting it to a float data type. Same for all of this. And for this, all we're doing, we're just filtering to get rid of null values, and this is just getting rid of orders that have been cancelled or returned. And this, all this is doing is just a way to make this run successfully. We're just filtering in a way to just retrieve numeric values. So let me just run this. All right, so let's just see if it works. Let's run this query. All right, so I think our rows are still retrieving. Okay, so we managed to retrieve over 500,000 rows. So here's the table or the view we'll be using to perform the rest of our analysis. All right, so here are some questions we're going to be answering before moving on to our RFM analysis. So I just created a new query and I pasted all these questions in. You can feel free to add more, but here are some I managed to come up with. So the first question we want to know is just to know the overall revenue in the data set. So how much revenue has the business generated over time? So before I do that, I'm just going to select all. Let me just select all the records. I'm not really sure what the name is. Let me check over here. All right, let me copy this. Let me just paste this here. All right, so let me try to run this to see if it will work. All right, so it works. So what we want to do now is we want to know the overall revenue. So the column we're going to need in this case, we're probably going to need the total price, I think. So all we're going to do is just we're going to sum all the total price together. So let me just try this out. All right, so let's run this. All right, so we managed to generate the overall revenue. So let me just rename this to revenue, just to make this easy to read. So let's run this one more time. All right, it's much better to look at. So we managed to retrieve the overall revenue that the business has generated. Okay, so I'd like to just get rid of these squiggly lines that's showing up. And to do that, I'm going to go to intelligence enabled and I'm going to click on this. All right, that's way better. So the next question we'd like to answer is which countries generate the most revenue? And this shouldn't be that hard. All we're going to do, I'm just going to copy this and include the country. So then just paste it down here. And all I'm going to include now, I think I'd also like to just paste this just to be knowing the records, a table, instead of having to write it all over again. So let me just paste it over here. So, okay. So I want to know what the column is named, whether it's named country or, all right, country. So I'm just going to include country over here. All right, so let me run this. It seems we have an error, of course. Yeah, we have to group by. So we're just going to group by the country. All right, so I think we might also have to order by the revenue. So in descending order to get to know which country generates the most revenue. So let me try to see if this will work. Order by revenue. Okay, and that will be in descending order. Okay, we can see that the United Kingdom generates the most revenue, which makes sense because that's mostly where the business operates. So followed by Netherlands. So we can filter it even more to just include the top 10 countries that generate the most revenue. So I'm just going to include top 10. All right, so it's much easier to read. So we can see now that the UK is leading over here. So let's move on to the next question. So we want to know who are highest value customers. So the top 10 customers by total spend. So and to do that, let me just retrieve the whole records in this table. And so we're going to need the customer ID. This data set doesn't include customer name, so we're only going to rely on customer ID over here. So we're gonna select. Let me scroll down. We're gonna select the customer ID. We're also going to need to know the total spend. So we're gonna select the total price. That will be the sum of total price. All right, so let me run this. Let me group by, because I always forget to do that. So we're going to group by the customer ID. Okay, so we might also, let me name this to be much easier to read. Okay, so we might also have to order by. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, all right, so this doesn't really show us much because it would be better if we have the customer name to know which customer is spending the most. But starting here, it starts to make sense. So this is probably what we're going to have to go with, this customer ID. All right, so moving on to the next insight, what we want to get to know here is the monthly revenue. So we want to know whether the revenue is rising or falling month by month, right? So to do that, as usual, let me just select everything from the view to know what we're looking at. So we're going to need the invoice date, right? And we're going to try to extract the month from the invoice date. So to do that, let me select, I'll first select the invoice date, then do the extraction later. That'll be the invoice date. And I want to like get the sum of the price. I think the column is total price. So I'm going to select this from the view. And of course, I'm going to do the group by. But first, before doing the group by, let me extract. Well, there are various ways to extract the month. I can just use the month function. Then I'm just going to open the bracket. And I'll just name this month. So to make it easier to read. So now I'm just going to do my group by. I'll group by. I'm not sure if this will work, but let me try. Okay, so let's just run this first to see if it'll work. It's probably not gonna work, of course. So what I'm going to do, we have to group by this. Okay, so I'm just gonna paste this down here. All right, so let's run this. Okay, so we managed to do that. So let's name this. I probably have to put like an as over there. Okay, to make it easier to read. Okay, I think, yeah, is this I'm supposed to name? I made a mistake. So that would be, let's name this I don't know, revenue. Okay, so it's much better to read. So to know, I want to start from the beginning of the month till the end of the month. So I'll have to like order by the month in ascending order. So we can start from scratch from the beginning. So we can start to watch and scroll to just see how the revenue has been growing and falling on a monthly basis. So I'm just going to order by the month. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So let's run this. Okay, so starting from January, so all the way to that will be December. So we can see how the revenue is rising and falling. So over here, based on this, I think this is, I can't really read this, but that will be 685,000. And here, that will be 519,000. So it kind of like fell over here a little bit. Then it rises up a little bit over here also. It falls, it rises. But overall, I think the revenue is rising overall. As you can see over here, um, that will be September to November. We can see that we're having a steady increase in revenue, which is good. Another thing we can do is I want to include the year with the month. So to understand like what year did we have like a high growth in revenue, right? So to do that, I'm going to use the format function. So we are formatting the invoice date. So it's going to ask us to like include exactly how we want it to be formatted, right? So I want it to be formatted like this. That will be the year and also the month. All right, so yeah, that's it. So let's run this too. I'm just going to leave it as month in the name. So let's just run this. Okay, seems we have an error. Okay, of course, we have to include this in the group by. So let me just copy this. Then I'm just going to paste it down here in the group by. Okay, so let's run this. All right, so as you can see here, it's much easier to read. We have the year and the month. So this is probably useless because we don't really have like a 00 month. So we're just going to start from here, starting from January, so 2010. So all the way to 2011, we can just start scrolling through to just see how the revenue has been rising and falling year and monthly, yearly and monthly. So yeah, we managed to answer this one. So moving on to the next one, we want to get to know the most purchased products inside. So which products are the best sellers, right? Yeah, to do that, let me run this to just get to know all the records in the table. So we're going to need the name of the product. So that will be the description and of course the sum of the total price. So to do that, let me just select that. So I'll select the description and of course we need the sum of the total price. We're selecting that from the view, and then we're gonna have to group by the description. And yeah, we might also have to order by the revenue in descending order. So to get to know the top 10, just to make it easier to read, but let me just run this first and I'll filter it down to the top 10. So by running this, it's gonna show us like the product with the highest revenue. So here over here, we can see the .com postage has the highest revenue, followed by the Recency KK3 tier. I'm looking for like a real product, the white hanging heart tea light holder. So he generated like over, I think that would be 106,292. I'm also looking to like make this, much more easier to read, maybe to round it up to like maybe two decimal places. So to do that, I'm just going to use the round function. So we're rounding this, and then let me put it to 2 just to see, maybe it will be much more easier to read. Okay, it's much better like this. It's much better. So yeah, now we managed to answer this one. We know that this is, I'm not sure if this is like an item, but it might be, but this is currently leading with the highest revenue currently. So the business might have to like, increase their inventory, right, with this product. So yeah, we managed to answer this one. It's quite easy. And the one that's now really doing much for us that we might have to like get rid in our inventory, that would be, oh god, okay, since we have some debt over here, but I'm looking for the product, like a real product that's not generating any revenue. So that will be around here. Hen house with chicken in nest. It's not really doing much, so they might have to remove that from their inventory. And yeah, for the last insight, that would be orders by time of day. So when do customers shop the most, whether it's in the morning or in the evening? So and to do this, we're going to need, of course, I don't really think I need to like select all the records. So that will be we're gonna need the date, and I'm gonna find a way to like extract the day from the dates. So let me first select the date first, and I'll select the sum of revenue, the sum of total price, of course. Oh, not that. I think for orders, we're going to need the invoice. Is it the invoice number? Just to get to know who is ordering. Let me just select this first to get to know the records. So yeah, we're going to need the invoice number because this is what shows us that an order has been made. So we're going to need this, and to avoid duplicates, I will only want to select like the unique orders that have been made by each customer, right? And also we might also need the customer ID to know who is making these orders, but really depends. It's optional to add this, but I know that for sure we're going to need the invoice number. So we're going to try to count all the invoice number, and to make it unique, we're probably going to include the distinct to just count the distinct number of orders, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to count the invoice number, but let's add a distinct in there real quick. Am I spelling it right? Okay, I think it's like this. All right, so we're counting the distinct invoice number. All right, so I might also include the customer ID. It really depends, but I'll also have to like group by. But let's try this one first. So let's select the this from the view, of course, and then of course we're gonna have to group by the invoice date. So I'm also going to try to extract the day later on, but let me run this one first to just see what it brings, right? Okay, so we can see around, let's order by, just to know, that will make us know when the most orders are being made. So we're going to order by this. Let's give it a name to, I don't know, let's just name it like orders, right? So we're going to order by the orders in descending order. So let's run this. Okay, so yeah, think we managed to do this, and yeah, we managed to get what we need. So to get to know the time of day that the most orders are being made, what we're going to use the date part function. And what this does is just, what it does is just it extracts, whatever you want from the date, whether it's the day or the month. So we're doing this on the invoice date. So it's going to ask us like, what do we want to extract? And in this case, we want to extract the time of day, which is the hour. We can also say that we want to extract the minutes. So we can do whatever you want with date parts. So in this case, we want to extract the hour. So I'm just going to add hour over here. So you can see it's showing like a couple of options. So we're going to go with the hour. So we're extracting this from the invoice date. Okay, I think it's correct. Not quite sure. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so let's name this time of day. Okay, let's try to run this. Let's put a comma over here, of course. All right, so let's try to run this if this would work. I think I might have to change my group by. So instead of grouping by invoice date, I want to group by this. All right, so and I want to order by. Yeah, let's do this. Let's see if it'll work. Okay, so things have changed a little bit because I didn't quite group by the right column. So here we can see that we had the most orders by 12 p.m. I'm not sure, is this a.m. or p.m.? I think it's around 12, maybe 12 a.m. or 12 noon, right? That's when we're getting the most orders. So we have like over 3,000 orders around 12 noon. So that might be when they might want to up that game, right? When they want to stay in the office and, improve their customer service. And the time they have like the least orders is 6, maybe early in the morning, right? Of course, they're just opening. Not many people are going to be around this time. So it's pretty much obvious. So yeah, that is pretty much all the insight we wanted to get. So what we want to do now is we want to move on to our RFM analysis. So I'm going to try to create a view, and our view is just basically going to be doing all the segmentation, right? It's going to segment by recency, by frequency, and monetary value. So I'm just going to copy the code for the view. I'm going to paste it and I'm going to try to explain what does, right? So yeah, let's do just that. All right, so I managed to create the view. So to explain what this does, this is just the RFM view, and what it's doing is that it's storing all the metrics or KPIs we're going to need. It has done all the necessary segmentations. So now when we want to start scoring, you know, our leads, here's the view we're going to be accessing. So to explain this, all we're doing is selecting the customer ID, and this I'm trying to get to know the recency. So this is the date we're going to use to reference as the most recent date. What this is going to do is just going to like check each customer's orders and when they made an order. So whatever date that is going to subtract it by this. So that's how we're going to get the recency. And this we're counting the distinct of invoice number, and that will be the frequency, just to know how many times they are making an order, right? And of course, there's the monetary value, just to know how much each customer has spent. So let's try to select this to see what it brings. All right, so as you can see over here, we have the customer ID, we have the recency, the frequency, and monetary. Of course, the lower the recency, the better, while here, the higher, the better. So now we're going to move on to our scoring, and I'm going to do it to make this quicker. I'm going to do the same thing I did here. I'm just going to copy the code, and paste it over here and try to explain what they do, right? So let's get into it. All right, so here's the script I managed to generate. So what we're doing here now is we're creating a CTE. So we're just selecting all of these columns from the view we created. And what this is just doing, an end tile is just breaking them into bins or like groups. You can call them like groups. It's like assigning numbers to like them based on certain criteria, right? So like this, let me try to run this first. What it's just doing is that we're assigning a score. The lower the recency, the higher the score, right? So the score is like from 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, right? And 1 being the lowest. So we're assigning all these scores to all these metrics. So that's what the end tile is for. It's just grouping them to various bins. We can always adjust this to whatever numbers you want. So let me just try to run this for you to just see what it brings. So I'm just going to highlight this. So yeah, as you can see over here, we have the customer ID over here. So, and of course it's retrieving the recency, frequency, and monetary. So here's what we're going to focus on. Here's what the end tile does. Here's the result. So you can see the recency here is 0 and it's assigning a score of 5. So yeah, you can see over here it's assigning a 5 because the recency is low, right? So it's a pretty good score. You can see that they are coming back on a recent basis. So that's why it's giving a 5 to the score. So as we see over here, as we keep scrolling down, you can see the recency here is 325 and it's giving it a score of 1, which is correct. So and for the frequency also, okay, I think we have an issue with the frequency score. Normally it's supposed to be if they're coming back on a daily basis, the score is supposed to be high. So I'm just going to make an adjustment over here. I'm going to put like, let's put an ascending order. Just see if it'll work. Let me review the monetary also to see. So for the monetary score, we can see that I guess the higher it is, the lower the score. Let me review real quick. So here 170 is giving us a 5, which probably shouldn't be. The 5 should be the highest, right? So I'm just going to make the adjustment. I'm going to change this to ascending, and recency is going to be the only descending one. So let's run this one more time. I think it's much better now. We can see here that the recency is 14, which means they come back on a daily basis. So it's giving us a 4, and the higher the recency, the lower the score. So we're good on recency, right? Just to cross check a little bit more, let me see the 5. Of course, yeah, it's correct. So 10 is giving us a 5. So let's check out the frequency. Let's review the frequency just to see. The frequency score over here, we have a 1, which means they're not showing up on a they're not purchasing on a daily basis. So it's giving us a 2, a 1. Okay, so let's see the high frequency, the one that it's a 5. Let's find the 5 over here. See, okay, we have a 5 here for frequency score, and it's giving us a 6. So yeah, I think we're good over here. And of course here 3,000 is giving us a 5. So this is exactly what we need, right? So, and for the monetary score also, the higher it is, the higher the score. So this is exactly what we need. So to make this better to read and better for visualization, I think first what I did here, I just wanted to store all the results to a physical table. So instead of having to run the CTE over and over again, we're just going to be selecting from the new table we're creating. So this is like a temporary table I created. So what this is just doing, I'm selecting all these columns, and this is just, I'm changing the data type, and I'm trying to concatenate all the scores into one. So let me show you what I mean real quick. So let me get rid of this first because it's a CTE and I have to, like, of course, select it all together. So I'm going to select it from the top And yeah, let's run it like this to see if it will work. All right, so it works. So we have a temporary table created. So let's select from this temporary table. Okay, so this is exactly what we need. So you can see that we're kind of like concatenating all these scores together. So, and so what we can do now, we can just order by the RFM score to get to know the highest, and it's just going to go all the way to the lowest. So let's just try that to see if it'll work. Let's just try the order by RFM score. And of course, that will be in descending order. Okay, so this is exactly what we need. So we can see that all these are exactly what we need. These have like the highest RFM score, and these are probably the customers that we want to focus on for our next campaign, right? So yeah, we managed to get to know all the customers we want to focus on. All these are like our top priority customers, right? So as we keep going down lower. All this might be, they're also top priority, they're not that bad. But as we keep scrolling, it might be moving down to medium priority and all the way to the lower, all the way down. All these are our low priority customers, right? So we don't really need to like focus all our energy on these customers with this score. So yeah, that's pretty much what RFM analysis is. They just help you to understand who your best customers is, right? They help you to segment your customers into various buckets and assign various RFM score to them. So they'll help you to create like a personalized customer campaign to just a way of getting your customer to come back to your business. And you get to know the customers that are loyal, that can stay loyal to your business. So yeah, we managed to do this with SQL. And before I end this video, I just want to create like a quick visualization in Power BI so that we can present, right? But what I'm just going to create visualizations for are the queries we wrote previously, right? I'm just going to save a couple of queries and I'm going to try to like visualize them in Power BI. So I'm going to navigate back to the script that we created earlier. Okay, so these are all the scripts we created earlier. So what we're going to do is going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to save a couple and try to visualize them in Power BI. So to do that, I'm going to run them and save them as CSV. And we're going to try to like run them in Power BI. So let's find a couple that might be suitable for visualization. This might be suitable just to know the overall revenue, right? We might visualize this in a cloud visual, right? So we might have saved this. So to save it, we're just going to right click and we're going to save result as. I'm just going to save this inside here. So I'm going to name it total revenue. Okay, and for the next one, another visual worthy insight might also be this, to get to know the countries that generate the most revenue. So we're going to run this, and I'm also going to save this as a CSV. Okay, so I just named it countries revenue. So let's save this. All right, so I managed to save every single one of these queries as CSV, except for this one because it might not really be visual worthy because we don't have the customer name. So I saved all of them except for this one. So now I'm going to open Power BI and we can start to build our visualizations. All right, so I managed to import all the records into Power BI. So all I did was that I navigated to get data and I chose CSV. So I just imported them one by one, right? So yeah, now that our data has been imported, we can start to build our visuals. So let's start with this, the country's revenue. So let me just select all the columns first. I might also have to rename the columns, but first let me see what's in there. Okay, so you can see it's helping us to create like a bar charts. So let's just rename them, right? So this will be the country and this will be the revenue. So to rename this, just going to click on the three dots and click on rename. So this will be the country, right? And this will be the revenue. All right, so let me just adjust this a little bit. All right, and for the next visual we want to create, we want to know the total revenue, right? Just this would be like a card visual, just showing us the total revenue. So I want to put this at the top over here. Just gonna put this at the top. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. Let's rename this column. Let me save this real quick. Alright, so I went ahead to save it. So now let's just put this here first. I might adjust it later. Alright, so the next visual we want to create, that will be the monthly revenue. Just know our revenue is growing month by month. Let me just try to select this to see what it will bring. And this. Okay, so it's helping us to create a line chart. Power BI has managed to detect it. So here we can see that revenue is steady, growth is steady, and yeah, it's much easier to read like this. So yeah, the revenue is growing based on what we're seeing here. So let's rename this. Okay, so let me bring this to the right. All right, so let me move this a little bit to the side. All right, it's much better like this. Okay, the next visual we want to create now, the time of day. So let's see what's in there. Uh, Actually, this isn't really what we need, but I'm not really sure which one is the day. I think this should be the day. Not quite sure. And this, let's try this one first. Yeah, this would be the day, but now I don't want it to summarize it. So I'm just going to click on this and I'll just click on don't summarize. Okay, so now I'll click on the second column. Okay, so it's helping us to create like I think this is a line chart. So we can see when it is peaking. So that would be 12 p.m. So exactly what we saw in our query, right? So I'll change the name. All right, so that is what we need. So I might have to like adjust this a little bit, but I'm just gonna leave it. Okay, so we managed to do this. So and the last visual we want to create is the top product. So let me just try to do this. Okay, so it has detected. So I'm just gonna make this huge. Okay. And yeah, also I'll try to adjust this also a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. So I'll rename this real quick. Okay, so yeah, we managed to visualize our data. It's much more easier to read. Of course, we can make adjustment to the title and we can add like a heading over here. But just to make this quicker, this video is getting way longer. I'm just going to stop here. And yeah, let's just close this up. We might change the theme just to be much more. Let's try to change the theme real quick. Let's try Frontier. Yeah, or we might try something much more, simple, like executive. Yeah, I think this is good. I think this is good. So we might have just add a title over here, just telling us that this is like a online retail dashboard. Let me just do that real quick. I'm just going to insert a text box. So I'm gonna name this online retail dashboard. So let me just adjust the font size. Let's put it to 20. It's not too big. And let's adjust this. Let's bring this up here. Let me adjust the size a little bit more. Let's put 24. It is blocking our card, right? Yeah, it sure is. It's blocking our card. I'm just going to change it back to 20. Okay. So let me see if I can adjust this real quick. And maybe I should bring this down. Same for this one. All right. So yeah, I think that is pretty much it. This is pretty much all we need for now. We have a clean dashboard we can present. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. We managed to learn about RFM analysis. We wrote some SQL scripts. We learned about how to do some lead scoring, some RFM scoring. And lastly, we just created a dashboard that we can present to our stakeholders. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this video. And if you did, feel free to give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.